Yo, and welcome to another segment of ROIS Podcast. I'm Roy Spencer.
I'm Johnny Rodriguez, and today we got a lot of different information to give you, obviously, but to start out with, we're going to start with something that I cherished as a child, which is GameStop.
GameStop, one of the best companies around, or you'd think, but right now, this is a full-blown Reddit crowd favorite. And today we're looking into this company because tomorrow they report earnings, which is quite exciting. But what does that really mean? So here I'm taking you guys into a little bit of a chart analysis of like what we do here on the show. And we're looking at this company and we see that GameStop, at the beginning of the year, that's when this entire like frenzy started. Right around January, February. And you
that
can
was
see
when
how
the Reddit thing happened.
Yeah, and like right like towards the end of January going into February is like when you saw its like first major peak and stuff like that, and it topped out at around $500 a share, and then it fell off, and people were wondering if it was just like a one-time thing, but inevitably happened again, and it rallied up to here, and then it's fallen back down, and then it's just been kind of riding a wave. And we talked about that in a previous podcast, and it's in one of the articles that we have. But now we see this company heating back up, and it closed the day, right around $300, and which is interesting because we have GameStop reporting earnings tomorrow, which is when the company comes out and they have to talk about how they've done in like their quarter, and what their earnings numbers looks like, and what they've been doing. And it's just kind of interesting because we're interested to see like if that has any sort of like effect on the stock's price and stuff like that. But with like the Reddit crowd being as devoted as they are, we're not really sure that this is going to actually do anything, because there's so many other companies in this bundle now that like, will anything actually derail it? We're seeing this company heat up, throughout the day, going up something like hundreds or 200%, and it's like it's crazy. And it's like when the numbers come out, like are these actually meaning anything to any of these investors that are hopping in on it? My thing is that it might not be like worthwhile to even check that stuff. But
so like with GameStop, and Reddit and whatnot, like it's not a normal stock, obviously. So in terms of like the actual value that it provides us, like, because even when you buy a game from GameStop, you still have to like sync it on your like PS4 or Xbox or whatever. So you might as well just get it from the PlayStation Store.
Exactly. This is a dying company. This company doesn't belong up here. There's so many people that have covered this stock, and nobody's giving it a buy rating right now, as they shouldn't, because this stock is way overpriced. And as we covered in like a previous article, this company is probably worth around like maybe $30 or $40 per share. But with like the hype that the Reddit crowd provides and the diehard Reddit traders, like you see this stock popping up every single day, and which has been great and an exhilarating ride for these Reddit traders. But it makes you just kind of start to wonder. You see when you look at the chart, you see it get up to here. It's like top out at around $500, and then it gets up. It had its round 2, and then it pops up to around 350, and now it's shaping up for its like round 3, and you just gotta wonder like where it's never gonna stay at this top. It seems to always have like this peak and then like giant sell off, in the following days. And with the earnings numbers coming out tomorrow, that's just not a stock that I want to be touching, and that's not a stock that I want to be involved in too much right now. And I think. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so you think it's gonna drop?
I'm just not confident right now that I see it keep going up, and that's just it's when we're on the show, we're talking about like what to do, like the best thing with your money, and sometimes what we've been talking about in the last 2 shows is kind of like how to attack this, how to like get in on it, how to like win this money. But sometimes you got to sit back and you got to be like, okay, well I made a good amount of money. how do I like defend this? Because a big part of having money is not losing money, and you gotta understand that, like, at the end of the day, you know, you're trying to make consistent profits and like take advantage of good situations. But when you see stuff on the horizon that's like daunting, especially with earnings coming up, that's something that you might want to stay away from. I don't have any money in this, but if I did, I would go with it's second brother, which I like to, so I'll show you guys about, which is a company called BlackBerry, which is also a part of this Reddit trade. This is kind of cool because there's like kind of like a little bundle going on here. You know, you got
not the phone company.
No, it is the phone company, right?
Oh,
and so
okay.
like BlackBerry phones, I haven't heard of anybody using a BlackBerry phone, you know, since like our dads, you know, were standing there at the soccer games. Just
my dad actually he had one like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It was a new one that came out. It's kind of cool.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, I'm surprised to hear that they're still making phones, but
Yeah.
they're definitely not like the popular trend anymore. And you know, their stock, you know, obviously a little outdated, kind of a lot like GameStop is as well, because you know, these are not companies of the future. These are companies that these Reddit traders have attached themselves to and have provided them like a way to not fall out and fall into like, you know, bankruptcy, which is you know, that's kind of cool. And that's kind of what seems to be like the trade policy here is, you know, save these companies, save what they're doing. But it's just kind of interesting to see how this company syncs up exactly with like how GameStop has been. And this is kind of, we're just gonna like zoom on in here for you guys because, you can't really see it that well, but because GameStop obviously like blew it out in terms of like what had actually been happening in terms of like when the stocks popped and when it fell. And GameStop has been like way more volatile than this, but the companies do mirror each other in that way. I guess kind of just seeing like, you see how it, like right here, it popped off, and these companies are highly correlated with the pops and rocks of like just when the other companies are popping off in terms of like the Reddit trade. And it had its like first rally here, and it didn't exactly have the second rally like GameStop did, but it did catch in for the third rally. And, you know, some people might see this, you know, the more aggressive traders see this as a great time to hop in on an options trade and stuff like that. It's not exactly for me at this time because I'm a little worrisome that, you know, these companies are heating up and there's only so much time that the companies can be heating up before they reach a burnout phase.
Yeah.
So, but this company, if you were looking to trade in on options or buy calls or something like that, you know, it's like younger brother that kind of, you know, has like the same sort of like track and growth. You know, it can pop up like a few 100% every day or some days, but you can get and buy the calls per se for much cheaper and still watch them like accumulate in price. So it's just food for thought if that's the type of trade that you get like the audience is looking to make. We're here to support you guys in whatever you guys do. For me personally, it's not exactly a trade that I want to hop on right now just because of how hot the entire market has been, especially with like the Reddit trades, you know, piling in, and it also like having an inevitable slowdown like days afterwards. But it's something to consider.
So, like BlackBerry and GameStop, they're not related whatsoever. Like, if this was, you know, like back in the day before, you know, they went down super bad and kind of became, you know, not modern or whatever. However you say it.
Yeah, they're down bad. Like, they're not a modern company. They're not a company of the future.
And they didn't trend even when they were like back in the day. They never trended together. Okay, so it's all Reddit community.
It's all Reddit community, and it's kind of like the power that we're seeing here out of this Reddit community. Is like when they hop in, they like stocks together, and they seem to all kind of be buying them at the same time. It's kind of like they're in there, they're saying, okay, like we like GameStop, and also somebody else like comes up and is like, we like AMC, and they're like, sure, let's buy that, and then they're like, we like BlackBerry and stuff like that. And, you know, there's actually like a few more stocks that, you know, they keep adding to the bundle. It's like every day they kind of add another stock in. And they add something to like, you know, go attack and like blow up. And it's kind of cool because like if you're in on the Reddit trade, it seems to be like somewhat of like a really reliable way of like, you know, as soon as like they say something like let's go get it, they have this like tremendous like power to like actually go and boost the stock.
Yeah.
And so I'm not suggesting in any sort of way that that's like a great way to like make consistent, gains. And when I'm looking out for your guys' like ROI, I definitely don't know if that's like the exact way to go, but these are things to keep in mind when you're trading these names, and possible things that you could probably be doing with these companies.
So it's like don't just invest based off of the hype you're hearing around it. Do your own research and whatnot.
Right.
Definitely.
And also, like, if you're gonna trade off of the hype, know that it's not forever. This is a temporary thing. They have sudden pops and spikes, and this is where I think like seeing this is like where I mean like a few traders that I had talked to had their mistakes, because they originally rode this rally coming in for the first wave, and they got to the top and they're like, yes, this is awesome, like we got a ton of money here, like just made a bunch of money, and then they make the mistake of adding to their position, and then at that point then it drops, and then you're like, well, I have all this money in this position, do I like hop in, hop out? And then it takes another beating the next day and the next day and the next day, and then it trails off, and then suddenly the money that you just won turns into a loss somehow, because people weren't able to like keep the money in there that they had. And that's just like a very, very sad way of like turning a gain into a loss, which is not something that we actually try to like stay away from that here on this show. And I'm happy to say that like when you see a market get hot, you can hop in on the rallies, but you shouldn't be about these like temporary pops forever.
Right. So let me ask you something. How, like, when it first started to pop way back, I can't see that, but like originally.
The end of January.
Okay, yeah, the end of January. Like how, like when it really jumps there. Like how can you predict, or like not predict, but just kind of read it to know like that it's not gonna stop like going up? Because I would have thought it was gonna stop going up, but then all of a sudden you just see this huge jump. How, like, is there a way to see that?
Well, there's like a way to play it. So you're never like going all in on these. These are not the companies that we're remortgaging the house to go in and buy. Like, please, let's like stay away from that. If we're doing something with these companies, we're using a very small part of our portfolio, or we're trading at speculation at this point. And like how I detail kind of in like the trading strategy that I have, when we're trading on speculation, we're not allocating anywhere more than 5 to 10% of our portfolio. And especially on this kind of like circumstance, this is like heavy speculation. The volatility is getting very, very high, and anything can happen. But there is a lot of like once you've kind of like, I guess, like insured a gain and stuff like that, you can use some of that money, or like how I do it is I use some of the money that I've gotten in a gain, and then I'll throw a little bit into a call, right? And I'll buy a few calls, because if I make this money and then like I buy a few calls and they all go to zero, that that's not great. I'm not like jumping up and down, but like at the end of the day, I made a profit. We're talking about how to turn your money into like not making like massive profits here, which potentially if you were on this trade and you were using that little method to like kind of like put in like a few calls every once in a while, and you caught fire here, you would have made a good amount of money. But you just nibble, and then when you hop in and you make that gain, you take a little bit off the table, right? So inevitably you probably won't have your money in all the way for this like great big giant spike at the end of January, but you do have a little bit on the table, so you can capture at least a little bit of that. And then you don't really know, except for if you start looking at like technical trends and stuff, that when it's going to fall off or anything. But you take your gains and you take them in like small chunks. You absorb it, and you don't let it turn into a loss, is kind of what we're getting at here.
Right.
And so
that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess just like something to be on like the wise about for like learning how to trade, and then kind of like, making sure that you're becoming a better trader every day, because I like to see when people make like stacks of money. That's awesome, but like stacks of money in like quick succession might not always be the best move, because easy come, easy go. And if you have that come like mindset, you could be forced into some rash decisions, and that's when we see like the money erode, and that's when we see upset people.
I feel like that's a good rule for life. Like too much of anything is not good.
Right. And you gotta know when to like let go. And
right.
For here, obviously when we see, like when we're going through here, everybody wishes that like they had a time portal, right? And then like everybody would have bought down here and then like sold up here.
Right.
But, we don't have a time portal, so we can only do our best. And
so how far, so like from back in January when it first started to go up, how far is that from the peak? Like how many, like is that January to February, or what is that?
Yeah, so this rally lasted about like 10 or 20 days, somewhere in between that, ran its little course, and then, did this little sell-off thing. And then, like, this is, like, kind of where, after, like, a big sell-off like that, this is kind of where, like, I was sitting there, actually selling some of, like, the options, selling some of the puts to the downside. Even though this company was still heavily overrated, it always had that Reddit trade, like, mindset in the background that, it's just, like, a solid foundation that these people are going to ride and die on this
right.
cause. So it was, like,
how do
kind
you
of
know
all right to, like, well, look, it's just kind of like, it looks like it, like, petered out,
But
it's
like
kind of
in terms of the Reddit community, like, is there like like, cause I've gone on Reddit and stuff, but like I'm not like on Reddit, you know what I mean? So like, is there like a community chat board where they're gonna all say like, all right, start buying and stuff?
Yeah, they have their like Reddit investments, and they talk about like a good amount of just like what they're going in on next.
Okay.
And like just the Reddit community seems to kind of just be like very, ride or die for the causes that they have. And it could sell off, because it had this big jump, but it's I like how I saw it was it was never going to reset back down to like where it started, which is all the way over here at around like $6 or something like that.
Right.
Before like the trade, because there are people that even though it did sell off, it only sold off to like 10 or like $9 or $10, once you get over here, because people believe in this. People
right.
like are sticking. This is like a lifestyle for these people, and they're sticking to it.
They'd stake their child on it. That's how much they believe in it.
And they really do, and we kind of joke around about it, but these people are committed to the cause, and they have this like, we're gonna win this together mindset, and I find that very admirable. But you gotta, as like a smart guy, that we're talking about like how to like understand the Reddit trade, or understanding like what the Reddit trades are, like the companies involved, but also how to make the most of it, and when to take like your money, when to put it in, and when to take some of it off the table. And I'm saying, right as GameStop's announcing earnings tomorrow, I don't have like any of my money on the table for that, because I think that that's like a mixed bag, and it could go like either way. And since all of like the Reddit kind of trades move in like some sort of like similar matter, like up or down, and like their trends, I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that trade, especially after making some good money here. Especially
is there a way to check it, like check with Reddit to see what they're planning on doing like tomorrow?
I mean, like, there's always like a way to do that, but like a lot of the times, like, still you got to understand, like, news will drive stuff that like the company's doing, and like if they get out there and really fumble the bag on like an earnings report, you can see, like, even though there's some people that are ride or die for this cause, there's some people, once you get into like these bigger spikes right here, these are the people down here that are the ride or dies. They're not giving up. Like, that's their stuff.
Right.
But like once you get into this is the ride or dies. This is like the other people that have kind of been speculative about it. This is like more people that are hopping about it because like they hear this is going up. Maybe you even get some like hedge fund managers hopping in. We don't really know, and it's kind of like a spooky place to be, because you don't really know what's behind that wall there, because you don't know who's in on it, but what you can tell is like it's not going to last forever. And after a nice rally like that, and taking some gains, like let's be smart about it and like not like, I guess, move all, or like, that's at least how I'm seeing it. You could disagree with me and want to hop in on a trade like that, and more power to you. If it goes off tomorrow, or they have great earnings, and could see the stock like blow up and go up another like 200% a day. You never know, but that's not a way to consistent gains.
So if you had so outside of like making consistent gains, if you had to just, you have a gun to your head and someone's saying, all right, is this going to go up tomorrow? Yes or no?
I'm rocking with the no, because it's better to be like safe than sorry. And so if I have no money in there, I have no money in there. Like, and the stock goes to like $2, like it doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
But like,
and you don't get shot.
Yeah, and I don't get shot. Or if the company goes to like 1,000, I guess I'm kind of kicking myself, that, like, darn.
Right.
But like, you're playing to like, you want to ensure that these gains exist, and that was one of the biggest problems that I had when I started trading, because I would get in on these giant rallies and make like a couple, like, I'd make a good return every few days, and then I'd lose, like I'd make this giant return up here, and then like I'd have the next day and it would be like way like I'd lose more than like I actually made in the previous day, and then then I'm like losing money at that point. It's not what you want.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds a lot like cryptocurrency.
It actually does sound a lot like cryptocurrency.
Literally, yeah, it sounds very similar.
Which is actually kind of crazy, because cryptocurrencies recently have been blowing up.
Yeah, they definitely have.
What's your take on some of the cryptocurrencies? I know you've been staying up to date with that.
When you say blowing up, you mean like legitimately blowing up, not going up.
Not going up.
Like,
we're not
blowing
like,
up and going down to shatters.
Yeah, like it's self-imploding, and so, but I know you do a good amount of following of like the cryptocurrencies, and I'm just kind of interested on your take here.
So I'll share my screen, but I'm gonna say this first. I would say this, like today I made, and I like you were saying, be smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go all in and whatnot.
Never go all in.
Right, and I figured, I don't know, there was just a point where they all started, they all hit like, I don't know, negative 13%,
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as one company started to go up, I figured they were all going to start to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened.
In terms of like the currencies today.
Yeah, in terms of the currencies today. And so like with doing the futures that you taught me, like
the crypto futures.
Yeah, the crypto futures. I just knew, like, because I saw, and the one that I'm specifically talking about is XRP Ripple.
Right.
And I got that when it was up like, I think 3% or something, and it ended up going up like 7%, and I ended up making like $60, which isn't bad, because I had lost a bunch of money when it all crashed.
Hey, it happens.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like exactly what you said, like the strategy with GameStop.
You got to nibble at it,
Yeah,
because
nibble at
like
it.
when we're talking about futures or buying calls, those increase, like, you could have a bunch of like really quick returns and stuff like that where it shoots up, right? But you don't pay too much for it. So there's like the chance that you like gamble and you like win a ton. But if you're throwing like your entire like life savings in on it or something like that, that's like cause like a call for like concern, because these aren't
gambling.
It's a gamble, but like there's ways to gamble, and there's ways to gamble in like a safe way, or at least like a way that ensures that you don't get your butt kicked. And even if you do get your butt kicked, you're not losing a significant amount of your portfolio. you know.
Right.
And
Right.
it sounds like that's what you were doing. You know, you only had like a little bit in. You rode that up, and you got like the nice gain, and you know.
Yeah.
And that's like exactly what we're doing. You know, you might be kicking yourself, and you see it afterwards, and you know, you're like, wow, I really wish that I'd gone all in on that trade. That would have been awesome. But you know,
Right.
we don't have any time machines here. We can only do
Yeah.
like so much in terms of that, and you know.
And the thing with cryptos is like what I stand by with what you said about GameStop and what I, you know, how I agreed. But I do think you know, these past what was it? When did it crash? When did the crypto? Was that yesterday or the day before?
Oh, it's happened like the last few days. It's happened. It's actually been like kind of like a monthly thing where, you know, it was sitting up there. You know, Bitcoin hit like 60,000, and then like it sold off, and then it kind of sat around, and then it sold off more, and then sat around. You know, and then it sold off again.
So here's something interesting. So do you know who the Winklevoss twin brothers are?
Not exactly.
So they're I'm not sure if I would pronounce their name right, but it sounds like that, like exactly like that, Winklevoss. And they're standing by, you know, they're Bitcoin billionaires, and they're standing by. They believe that Bitcoin is gonna be up to at least, they think eventually 500,000.
Wow.
I
mean, I could imagine that, you know, because like it started off at like what, like $5 or something, like in 2011, and then like, you know, then it shot up. I actually saw something kind of funny because like in 2011, and I mean, don't quote me on the dates, but like 2015, 2017, and then 2020, 2021, you know, it's had like these big shoot ups, and then followed by like massive sell offs, you know, and then, but like it continues to like ride this like cycle where, you know, it does that, and then it'll sell off, but then it'll like go back up and like rally again at some point.
Yeah, and it's very strange too, because like I feel like, you know, as it's getting more popular and being publicized a lot more, more and more you know, people of notoriety, and not even necessarily of notoriety like because they're good at investing, but you know, notoriety because they're, you know, just they've made a lot of money in construction or, you know, whatever, like they'll say, you know, Bitcoin is a sham or something,
right?
And or is a scam, and that's actually what Donald Trump said the other day.
Yeah, he did.
But the thing is, it's like I doubt he understands the technology. You know,
there's a lot. It's a lot of like, you know, you have to have an open mind to kind of see these things as like a plan of the future.
And also, who know? Like, you never know. Like, when someone says something, like you don't know their intentions behind it. Like, what if he, you know, he knows that it's gonna go back up, and he
just says that, and that is a great point. I'm glad you mentioned it, and that really speaks to like, you know, what you can take out of like people that report and like their numbers, people that are like politicians that talk to stuff like that. You don't know where like their stakes are in this, and so you know, you gotta take like some of like these bigger people that like, you know, have like giant parts and like big monies, you know, to not like just trust what they say at like face value, because you don't know their underlying motives. And yeah, man, that's so true. And it's, you know, it's cool. I don't know if you can do this with stocks, but I know you can do it with cryptos. You can actually look. I'm forgetting how. I watched a YouTube video that was showing it, but you can see like, you know, big holders of cryptos, like billionaires, what coins they've recently bought. That's pretty cool. Yeah, actually, that you can do that with stocks as well.
You can.
Well, somewhat. You know, you can see like when like people buy like big amounts, or like if like a person in the company that's like a higher up executive sells or buys more. So.
Right. Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely just so many different ways to, you know, there's a lot of things to be wary of, and then also, you know, the tips that we provide here on ROIS Podcast.
We're looking out for the ROI.
We're never gonna steer you wrong. Like, well, I mean, we might steer you wrong, but we're not gonna intentionally steer you off the cliff.
Right. We're talking about it, like, we're not giving people like recommendations here. I'm talking about it as like how I see it, and I love it like that. Like, we can grow as like a community together. You know, we're trying at the end of the day here. What we're trying to do is like we're trying to all make money together, and you know, it starts by having like this like solid community around us. You know, when they're smart, they give us ideas, and like we have ideas, and then you know we can put these together, and then we can grow together, and that's kind of what we're aiming here for. So you know, we might be wrong, because like there's traders out there that have like 20, 25, 30 years of experience, but you know, we're kind of new to this. You know, we have some knowledge, and that's what we hope to share with you guys, but we're by no means like any sort of experts, and we're trying to make money, you know, and then kind of report on like what we find is like good keys to actually making money. And
Right. Well, Roy doesn't give himself enough credit, but he knows what he's talking about when it comes to stocks. So
I've been doing it for roughly 5 or 6 years now, and it's definitely a passion of mine, and one of my things, and like one of the main reasons I do this show is because like there's so many things that I wish I knew at the beginning, but there was like not a lot of resources out there, and like if there was resources out there, they're kind of, you know, convoluted, and you could never really tell if like this person was just trying to tell you to do this so that they could make money, or you know, just like we had no idea behind their like reasons, and you don't know like what good advice is before like you kind of like get it. So we kind of just like encourage people that like are a part of watching this show to like, you know, take this like journey with us, and like, you know, see and like test out like what I put out there. You know, am I right? You know, then like, you know, walk along with me on this journey. But you know, if I'm wrong, you know, call me an idiot. Get on here and like let's talk it out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm open to learning. Yeah, don't be afraid to comment. Like, I like learning. You know.
And you'll know if you know how we're doing, if you know suddenly the studio gets upgraded and I'm not doing it out of a closet.
Right.
You know, we're not. You know, you'll be able to see.
We have like a little bit better lighting in here. You know, get a fancier place. You know, you guys will be able to tell, and I'm sure
you got Calvin Klein in the back, but you're gonna have Louis Vuitton soon.
Definitely. Sometime soon, especially if you guys have been following like the trades that I've been talking about on here, like with like, you know, like I talked about AMC with you guys, that blew up like roughly a few 100%. I talked about
Can we talk about that AMC real quick?
Yeah, for sure. Let's pop over there.
Okay, cool. Cause with AMC, like, do you think it's similar to GameStop? Like,
yeah, it's a part of like that GameStop bundle and stuff like that.
Don't you think it would? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, you go for it.
I was just gonna say, you know, wouldn't it make sense that it is going up as you know, this whole COVID thing is kind of dying down?
Right, and so like that's like, okay, so when you look at like a chart of like AMC, and this is just how I see it, was, you know, you see it's doing nothing in like the beginning, you know. It's kind of like a company. It's a dying company, you know. It got absolutely like screwed by like COVID, and then like, you know, it's coming up, and then like Reddit rally, and you know, boop, you know, it has that little jump, and you know, it's kind of cute, and then
they saved it.
Yeah, and then it kind of sold back off. But what I'm talking about here is it was at $2 beforehand, and then after it sold off, because you don't really know who these people are in here, but like after it sold off, you see these ride or dies that are like a part of this. You know,
right?
And they stick with it, you know, and like as we detailed in like one of the articles that we have, you know, AMC was a company that, you know, was as like assured by like the Reddit crowd as like GameStop or anything like that, and there was a good opportunity to sell some puts there, and because like
we'll put the link for that article in the description.
Right on. And you know, they were about it, and then, you know, then it had like a little bit of some time where you see all these like little red things, you know, and it sold off, mm-hmm. And then it finally got that good piece of news where it said, like the CDC came about and said, you know, most states aren't gonna have to like enforce like any more like COVID policies coming into June, and you know, now we're sitting in June. And now people are like walking around without masks on. But like that was a savior for this company. And so, it got that news and it popped. And then, and then inevitably like the Reddit traders, kind of like started like hyping it up and, caught wind. And then, the next day it was a little better. And the next day a little better. And, as I've kind of showed before on this show, like I detailed this spot right here, right around like the $20 per share area. It was like a really good place to like, hop on that spike right here and ride this one up. And, and it was only something that's speculative. So we're not putting our entire portfolio in here. We're not remortgaging the house to throw money in here. We're putting a little bit on it, and if we lose that money, we're okay with it, to a certain extent. And so we rode the wave here, and then you take a little bit off the table, but you ride the next wave on the next day. And then, you got to know like your ins and outs, and you ride this wave. And then, if you're still in on it by like this day that you have here, you make this massive gain, and because the calls blow up way faster than what the actual stock price is. So you can see a jump from like 1,000% of a change to like nearly like 2,000, past 2,000, and then if you're holding calls like that change in price right there, that 1,000% change, is multiplied out like astronomically by like the calls, and that's why you leave some of the call money on the table, and then you and with every jump up and what you see, you got to take like a little bit off the table. You're ensuring those profits slowly but surely with like the small amount that you had put in there, and then
Are you scratching something right now?
Me?
Yeah, it sounded. I could hear that. It sounded like rustling. I'll cut this part out.
Okay. No, but
you're not okay. If I can, don't like rub some. Don't.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is then. What the heck?
Okay.
All right.
Let's resume.
Boom.
But yeah, that's how AMC's story goes. You have a little bit of like the chaos, and you're ensuring profits slowly but surely, and you're taking money off. But you have those days where afterwards, it kind of sells off for a little bit, because nothing, in this rally, we like to say like nothing lasts forever. You got to be a little weary about like how long you're in on this red hot stock, because it could come crashing down, and just like we're talking about with GameStop here, it could come crashing down as soon as tomorrow with like the earnings coming out. So you never know. You just got to be careful on that. And I think like another company that I kind of want to detail into you guys is a stock that we've also covered on this show before, and it's called WorkHorse. WorkHorse is a special company to me because it's out of Ohio. It's out of Loveland, Ohio, and it's part of the EV race for the future, where they are going on to try to develop autonomous delivery vehicles for just delivering packages and stuff like that, where people don't have to drive. And they have a lot of really cool ideas, and we've talked about this company on this show, and this is kind of like the company I like to like see as like my baby, in terms of like what I've been following, because like I really do believe in this company. But one of the things
you've been predicting it right too.
Yeah, but it's just about like being passionate about a stock. It gets easier the like more passionate about it you are. But like we talked about how it got to like this point, then it had the massive sell-off after it lost the contract, and then it sold off a little bit more, and then it had like its bump over here, And so what we kind of like have learned is like, as I started talking about it in like the $7.50 and $8 range, what happened was it got picked up by the Reddit crowd as actually a Reddit crowd trade. And so now with these bumps on it, in the last few days it's gone up like 10%, 20%, 30%. Today it was up another 11%, And it's just like, you got to be wary about it, because I do believe in this company. I believe in it, for its like future, but it does have some potential downsides. So, and also it's being drove by this Reddit crowd, right? And you can't with like anything going on in the Reddit crowd, it's all temporary, and you got to take your gains as they come. And so like how I'd been trading it was I was putting puts down here, trading it above like the $7.50 mark, $8 mark, $9 mark, placing it kind of carefully. And then, the Reddit trade got involved. And when I learned about that, it kind of changed up how like my trading style looked on it, because now it's a little bit more scary. And it's even more scary because it is a parent company of this other company called Lordstown Motors, which is a company, I think, out of Michigan, which is also in the EV race, but they're not doing as hot. As you can see here, they sold off 16% today, and then another like 6.5% in the after hours. And if we check out the price of WorkHorse, because like they're a parent company of that, we see that like they actually sold off at the end of the day along with this company because it's a 10% owner of this company. So moves that this company has affected. So we're looking at the 1 day here. Yeah, maybe not.
And the Reddit community hasn't, they haven't helped or like jumped in on, not Workhorse, but
Lordstown?
Yeah, Lordstown.
We don't know. So that's like the unpredictability of like the Reddit crowd,
Right.
And it's cool, and you can make money, rocking along with them, kind of on speculation. These are not the trades that, these are like the trades that you don't put too much stake into when like the Reddit crowd hops in on it, but, they can be a solid way of, making a little extra cash here and there. But what we have here is, the stock was kind of up, and this is Workhorse, because it had been powered by the like Reddit trade, and then like throughout the day it had this like it had this like fall off towards the end of the day because it just actually I'm sad that we're not able to like see it here. It's only taking us up to 1:40 p.m. But if I were to describe kind of like what happened to it at like the end of the day, kind of this like little fall off part. Okay, well, I guess like we're not able to like exactly see that right now. Actually, we might be able to. We can see it here. This is a 1 day chart, and it describes exactly where we got. But as the end of the day came around, Lordstown Motors announced that they might have like financial problems going on in the future, which is kind of a concern for a lot of these EV companies because there's a ton of them, and like to be in the market, they have to make the best product. And it was just like very hard for these companies. And Lordstown Motors announced that news that they might have financial problems somewhere around 330. And after that, this company even tanked a little bit. But it's kind of strange.
330 as in
like the time is like was around 3 or 330. And it's just kind of strange because I like to think about like the Reddit crowd and the power that it has, and it's driving these companies up every single day. And it kind of seems like they have like no stopping point. But you see stuff like that. There is like some sense into like what they do because, as you can see here, like they trade with the news. This company had like, because they're a parent company of this other company, and the other company announced that they would have financial problems. Then you saw like the sell off, even though it was driven by the Reddit crowd. But as you can see here, this didn't really actually bother them that much because it finished up 11% on the day. And now in after hours trading, which means like after the market closes per se, the company's up like another 5%. So like, you see like the Reddit crowd being in on it and probably mixed in there with like other traders as well. And maybe it was like the other traders that got out of it, started selling it off at that point.
Right.
But, the Reddit crowd is they're devoted. But they also understand that like news moves the market, and you can have points. That's how I'm connecting it back to the GameStop, because tomorrow if they release earnings and they have poor earnings, you could see some of these people sell off and it have like a hardcore day of selling off as it goes. So just kind of like something to like illustrate that like they're a devoted crowd, but they have their breaking point. And they're not always able to like kind of stay on board, and they will get out of the way for like at least part of it when like like bad news comes about.
That makes sense.
Right.
Do you so with the Reddit crowd, is it called Wall Street Bets?
Wall Street Bets. Yep, that's where they originated.
So that's not like the current.
Well, I think what ended up happening is I don't necessarily, I'm my own trader, and I kind of like the Wall Street Bets people and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say I'm a part of that community. So I heard that they had like their kind of like chat, taken down after like the first initial gamble.
What?
Yeah, it's kind of been crazy. Like a lot of Robinhood and like Webull and all that stuff that was like they were actually restricting trades for these traders.
Is it because of the hedge funds?
Yeah, it's because of the hedge funds. If you think about it, at the end of the day, these hedge funds have billions and billions of dollars, and when they're getting like hit as hard as they were, with like the short selling that they had and like the price going up, this takes like a massive hit on like their portfolio. And so, they also have influence on Robinhood and, or like the other companies, and they're like, hey, make sure this stops happening, do whatever you can.
Right.
And, when somebody with like billions and billions of dollars tells you that, you're kind of like, I guess, like, yeah, sure, we should probably do that. They'll pay us a few $1 million.
So I remember like hearing a statement from Robinhood CEO talking about how like when they stopped the trading on there, that it was because like I don't like the app itself, like I don't know, couldn't take it or something. It just
okay, like they're gonna say like all that stuff though, right?
Yeah.
Like the app couldn't handle volume and okay, yeah. Like maybe, that's potentially something, but do I bet that that's like the only reason? Hell no. Like that's because at the end of the day they're running a company, and like the company needs like money, and they have money backed by all these billion-dollar hedge funds, that put a little bit of money in like a private investment, and when they start getting hurt hard, they're kind of like, hey, can you help us? We're losing billions of dollars in like one day, And it's just like it just kind of shows like the like capitalism in play, and how rigged the system is, and but that's always how it's gonna work out. So like what we're talking about here on this show is understanding that and then finding a way to like make money regardless of that, and taking advantage of it actually, because there's ways for us to make our difference.
So in terms of being able like taking, I don't know how to say this, like what strategy would you recommend? Like would you say that there's a different strategy that you use for GameStop compared to WorkHorse?
Of course. Well, as it becomes more and more of a Reddit trade, then I start to group that all together as like heavily risky, But as an EV company, I kind of like labeled it as like my own thing, company that had been down bad, but had a bright future ahead. But as it became carried by the Reddit trade, it's kind of like, well, anything can really happen to it. These people get carried away with like blowing up stock prices to like to the moon, and it's not exactly like safe, and safe in the way that it could just tank like the next day, and you don't want to be a part of that, especially if you made some good profits here. So how I've been taking these companies, GameStop, AMC, and now WorkHorse, as like they become like red hot, I ride that a little bit, but you got to know when to lay off the gas. And so going into like tomorrow, I'm taking my foot off the gas, with like GameStop, AMC, BlackBerry. It's cool if you guys want to like stay in on it, but like I just see it like there's only so long that these companies can stay red hot before like a sell-off happens, and you don't want to have your money get tangled up in that. And so
does the Reddit community taint the reputation of a stock or a company?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I can see like how they cover it here on CNBC, where they're kind of just like, you can see it. Like they're like these like 30, 40-year-old dudes, women as well. They get on there and they have solid like fundamentals of how they learned how to trade. You see this technical pattern, and you make this execution if this happens, or they fundamentally trade by like looking at a company and being like, okay, well they have good return on like their earnings and stuff like that, and so like because it's a value trade, like they'll hop in on it and stuff, but like they don't understand any of this sort of like trade that's been happening that blew up GameStop, that blew up AMC. And it in their mind it's tainting it, but like they're like they do have like the money, you know. I'm not gonna kid
Right.
you, you know, because they have the millions and billions of dollars that drive these hedge funds. But like, you know, in their mind, these stocks are just, you know, don't touch them, like,
Yeah.
get out of the way. And you know, I can see that to a certain extent, but like, I think that there's opportunities to make money on speculation, and especially like, you know, that's kind of what we've been talking about here in like the first few episodes. Is like, don't be afraid to hop in on that a little bit, you know, because if you're right, you know, you get these massive returns, but if you're wrong, you only gamble like a little bit of your money, and you know, then you lose just like a little bit here and there. But
Yeah. So like, so for someone that's just, I don't know, that is thinking about hopping in on or getting in on WorkHorse, do you think now is a good time, or
Nope.
or like starting
You've
tomorrow?
missed the train, my boy. You are
Missed the train.
Yeah, like I would give it because like these stocks rock with like a, you know, they go up and then they kind of like cryptocurrency, you know how we're talking about it, you know, they go up, they hit like, and then they really hit, and you know, then they have the days where they're up like 20%, and then you're like, wow, you know, and you're sitting there kicking yourself, and you're like, dang, I really wish that I was on that, you know, on that boat.
Right.
But you don't get on the boat after it started sailing. You don't start getting out in the water and like swim after the trade, and, you know, oh, come back, because you know, you get finally once you get on the boat, and then you like learn that it's the Titanic and they hit an iceberg and it's sinking, and you're just like, well, damn, why am I on this boat? And then you're the last one to sell, and then you watch it all tank all the way down, and then you lost like 50% of your portfolio, and then you're a very sad trader. And that's a bad ROI right there. And we're only here for good ROIs. So
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, and one last thing about crypto that I'm gonna add is that, you know, with it being so low now, I'm not saying that it's done going down, but I do think after today, like, just having you know, a day where it's been mostly upward, I think that it's gonna steadily start to go back up.
Right.
I don't think anything's gonna be shooting up though to like to the moon. You know
Right,
what I mean?
because that's not exactly like how momentum, you know, because these are at the end of the day momentum stocks, and you know how momentum works is like, you know, like imagine a rock, you know, and a rock that's rolling down the hill, you know, you push the rock and it starts off and it's like slow, but you know, it's moving down the hill, and then it's picking up momentum, and it's picking up, and then it's really cruising, you know, and that's like the time that you want to hop in, because it's like it's working, you know, it's
you want to
cruising.
get hit by that rock.
You know,
Yeah.
but you don't want to be on the rock, you know, when it's like about to like hit like a wall, like, you know, it's cruising down a hill, and then there's like a wall there, you know, it's gonna crash,
like,
it's gonna stop, you know.
Or like you're running, you push the rock. I feel like you push the rock down the hill, and you're running alongside it, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna get in now, but then it just then it just rolls, kind of like rolls over you, and then rolls back over you.
Right, and that's exactly how it is if you get in on a momentum stock, and you know, you're at the wrong side of it, because you know, if you're like, wow, this is going great, you know, you've already seen it go up like 2,000%. You're like, yeah, it's gonna keep going. It's not. Like, let me tell you, like, it never does. You know, it goes up, and it goes up to a certain amount, and it always, you know, a great expression. What goes up must come down, and you know, especially stocks that are like blowing up for no reason. And you know, I love GameStop. You know, I've bought like my first Game Boy there. You know, had some great memories there with like my little soda pop, and like, you know, picking out games and bothering my parents to like go buy that game. You know, when I had like my GameCube. But like, truth of the matter is, like, most of this stuff you can just buy directly on your like your gaming console now. You know, you don't have to go into GameStop. So like, that stock doesn't make any sense in terms of like, even though they have plans for like future growth and like, you know, moving to like an online platform, you know, it's just too late, you know, unless some sort of miracle happens. And also, like, you know, AMC, you know, I mean, like, some people will go back to watch like movies and stuff, but like, all these people, you know, now, you know, Netflix is such a big part of like what we do, and Hulu, you know, you can find your movies elsewhere. You don't have to go into a movie theater, and I think that's what the pandemic showed us. So that's kind of like a dying thing as well.
So obviously, you know, like AMC, you know, a lot of it's going up because people want to get out of the house, you know, finally are able to kind of get that movie theater experience.
Okay, but that's not exactly the reason that it's going up.
No,
I mean, that's kind of like.
And then.
Go.
But that's like a little, just like.
That's like the spark. That was like the spark. Like CDC was like, you guys can like go into a movie theater now and not have a mask on. And people are like, this is fire. This is a great trade, and then it got overhyped.
Right. Do they now? The only thing I would say, like, I guess, not argue against, but like I could see, kind of affecting it still being something to look at is like, do you know if when they release movies, like, because back in the day, if it was like specific movies, you would only be able to see at theaters first, and then eventually it would come on to Netflix or Hulu or whatnot. But during the pandemic, that had to change because people couldn't go to the theater. So, do you know if like right now there are any movies that just came out that are in theaters but that you can't get on streaming platform?
Like I just kind of like want to walk through it with you. Like all these movies, they cost like a ton to make, and the foreseeable future, you have to put a movie into like casting. You have to do that work for a while. It takes months to do this stuff. If you're gonna do that, and the movie theaters are closed, like what the heck are you gonna do that for? So like, what movies are even out there right now that are new and popping into theaters? Like it's gonna take a little bit of time for these movies to start coming back and like actually have their like dates where they come out and start like start popping off. But I think AMC's kind of strategy now is like they realize that they lost a lot of like their customer business because some people are gonna forever like abandon movie theaters. That's just how it is. They're gonna be happy with watching the movie at their house or whatever like that, and the pandemic really showed that, Then you'll get like your people that kind of come back a little bit, but not really, and then you got your diehards that I love movies, like the movie theater popcorn, that's my stuff, and then they'll be back, but you're losing. At the end of the day, you don't have the same audience that you did because things like Netflix and Hulu and any of the other sort of stuff, Disney Plus, that took a little bit of your audience. Yeah, Peacock, and that took your audience, and they're not coming back. Just hate to break it to you, and so and so like if that's the case, and you're offering no new products, then like how is your stock to be worth like what it was pre-pandemic? Because now you're having less audience, and they're paying. They might be paying more, but like that's still going to drive audience away because like they're going to get turned off by price. So
yeah, because the only reason I bring that up is because I know that I think it was a Quiet Place 2, the second one, just came out or something, and it got like a record for like amount of money, box office. I don't know what you call it, but that's probably just because everyone's just they just wanted to get out of the house.
Right. Yeah. Like they're like somebody that was caged up, and they're like, stay in your house, and like the government's like, you should stay in your house, and people are like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Like I got my COVID shot, I'm ready to go. Have at it. I'm gonna go stand in like the movie theaters and do whatever I want. And I could imagine that, but like, I just don't know how much, and especially with like the pandemic, there being like jobs and stuff and people being laid off, and for people that stayed, like salaries did not increase. So salaries of people actually, stayed the same, or people that were getting new jobs were actually being paid less for them. So, I just don't think like in the long run people have like the money to keep like sustaining like going to this like movie theater. And for AMC's price to be sitting at $55 right now, that's absurd. This is a company where the price might like the I think like the top or like somewhere near the top's like price analysis for this sits at around $8. This company is a far walk away from $8, and I see it get back there at some point. But it was fun while it lasted. It was like a good rally. So
it was a nice walk.
It was a nice walk, and it was like something that you could hop in on and have made some decent gains, and that's what we're trying to tell you here at this point. We're not saying that we're believers in like the movie theater in the long run, or we're not saying that like me and Johnny are gonna like run out of here and head over to GameStop for the next game after this. These are kind of died out industries, and this like even one of the other trades that like they kind of are about, which is BlackBerry. that's dying, so.
But WorkHorse is not a dying industry.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of funny is because you never really know what the Reddit crowd is about to like hop in on,
Right.
And one kind of fun fact about WorkHorse right now is that they're the number one shorted stock out there in terms of percentage, which is kind of exactly how GameStop was, before, and AMC was before all this like blew up. They're the number one shorted stock out there right now. So what does that mean? Like this, when stocks are shorted, there is a big chance that they have a violent price movement, either up or down. And
Right.
with that being said, I'm not going to be selling puts on it anymore. I might hop in on this trade as something to be speculative about and buy some calls, because if it does have that giant bump up to the upside, and Workhorse goes from 16 to 30, which I can very, very much see happening. I want to be there for a little bit of that, but how am I going to do it? I'm going to buy some calls, and then I'm going to take profits when they come.
Okay.
And
what's the risk with the calls?
Well, you have to pay the premium up front. And the premiums, kind of range from anywhere from around at the beginning of the AMC ones, the premiums were 100 or 150 or something per call. But,
Right.
now that the company's price, skyrocketed, they're thousands of dollars. And that's what I was trying to tell people with the BlackBerry stuff is they do the exact same thing. But their calls are only worth 80 or 100 or 150 instead of paying $1,000 at the door, because you don't
Right.
want to pay $1,000 at the door for just one of these, because they're risky, and you don't want to have your entire portfolio rolled into one of these. So trade the cheaper one, because if it does have that fall off, you're not losing as much money, because you can't trade a fractional call. That's just not a thing. And so
Right.
if you're buying it, you have to buy the entire thing. So you can't get around buying the AMC call for less than $1,000 or $2,000. So
Right.
that was my word of advice with the BlackBerry trade, if you want to be in on something like that. But what I'm saying with Workhorse is, now that it's kind of being wrapped up into something like that, and the Reddit trade and having the massive short interest, especially with short interest come about when the big boys see the company as being overvalued,
Yeah.
and then they bet that it's going to go down. With that all being there, there's a chance that it shoots up or it shoots down. But
When you
what
say
you're
big boys, you're talking about
the hedge
people that
funds,
okay. Yeah.
the ones with the billions of dollars wrapped around
Yeah.
this kind of stuff, don't mess with them, because I mean, you can actually. What the Reddit rally showed is you can mess with them, but they still have billions of dollars, so they'll be back.
Right.
And
Right.
and so with Workhorse, I can see it. I can see it blowing up in the future, and I might be a call buyer of that. But I'm not. This is not something that I'm moving in a ton of my money. And one of the things you gotta be about is I'm probably gonna be in on buying the calls here for Workhorse. But one thing you gotta see is if this doesn't go the way you want and it just tanks down, are you okay with losing the money that you put into the calls? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't be in on that trade.
So is there a stock out there that you would say, I mean, obviously you're not saying to do this or anything, but that if you had to guess, money that you don't you're not, you would be afraid to lose. Is there a stock that's safe to do this with? To
You're
invest
talking
in?
about more of a safe trade.
Yeah, safe trade.
Right now, how I've been rocking for the last little while is there's AMC and GameStop, and that's kind of been hanging around there, and that's kind of been my trade, over the last
Gotcha.
few months, and Workhorse, which I thought was pretty safe, but these things come in waves. You make your good money, and how a great investor described it to me was you make your money, and sometimes it just feels like you're just printing money with how good it is, because when the stocks are red hot, they are. But then also a part of it is sometimes then the stocks cool off and then they sell off and stuff like that. And and then at that point, if you're trying to trade those, it feels like the hardest thing in the world to make just $1. And
man.
yeah, so like you always got to be on the lookout for like new companies, seeing when like, it's a good buying opportunity. But the thing is, like, now more and more, a lot of these companies are being wrapped into like a Reddit trade, especially if they have like potential price movements, and it's hard to get away from like them because they're becoming like more and more, and they're taking on more and more stocks. Like, you want to know something crazy that they did today? A stock that they also hopped in on and blowing up. Wendy's. Like, who the heck? Yeah, they blew it up. They're just like, okay, let's just make Wendy's go up like 25%.
Wow, what was it at?
We can walk over and check it out.
Because that's weird. I was about to ask, like, is there like a mainstream stock out there that Reddit has hopped in on?
Yeah, I mean, like, they kind of just hop on like, look at this. Like, what the heck is this crap? These companies have no real reason for blowing up other than like a Reddit, trade, decides that, I mean, I guess it's like worth it or something.
Or they come out with a new sandwich.
Or they come out with a new sandwich, but that doesn't seem to be like the only thing driving it. So as you can see here, this is a 3-month chart. It's kind of just doing its own thing, and after like the pandemic, lots of these companies were, they had their ups and their downs. It's riding along, just having its average time, doing whatever, and then boom, just like out of nowhere, it's just like, what the heck, it's up 25% in like one day, and it's just like, why,
Dude,
you can't.
Is that line at the bottom, is that literally going
this?
off? Yeah, is that going off, like, yeah, is that like attached to that blue line at the bottom, the RSI?
This purple thing?
Yeah, like if you trace that all the way up, it turns green.
Yeah, so what RSI is it's a measurement of how bought up the stock is. And it's kind of funny to look at because, you can see exactly when the Reddit traders are hopping in on it.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's just kind of doing its own thing. It's like, yeah, okay, like, whatever. It's doing its, like, regular thing. And then the Reddit traders hop in and they're like, we want this thing to go up. And it's like, boom, instantly, like, overtraded.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's also, like, a good indication of what to look for to, like, see, like, when it's a good opportunity to buy calls. Like, Wendy's might not be a bad opportunity to buy some calls, That could be a good speculative trade because, like, the RSI is high. It's past, like, the zone to where I can say it's, like, overbought, and that's usually a good indication for, like, massive price increases. It had its first day of over 5%, which is what I look for when buying calls. And also, like, once it's, like, reached its, like, second day of being over 5%, like, if this is, like, up another 5% and it stays kind of like this and passes 5%, I'm going to look into buying some calls because I could see it potentially going off. And that's just how I trade. But, I'm here to share this knowledge with everybody, and, I hope you guys kind of, like, are able to see, like, what I'm doing, good things or bad things, and, kind of, like, take something away from this strategy. But it's been a solid strategy thus far, and,
If I'm taking away something from it, our audience for sure is.
Yeah, I mean, and
because I don't understand stocks just as much as probably the person out there that's watching this that doesn't understand stocks does.
Have you learned anything about stocks through this?
Yeah, oh yeah, dude, 100%. I mean, like, I didn't even know what a future was, like a week ago or before we started this podcast, and today I made how much did I say? I made some money back from doing that.
Right. And like that's what we're aiming to do here. We're aiming to at least have people understand how to like options trading works and how futures work, because like that is where like the like that's like the difference between like a beginner and a novice, or a beginner and a somewhat advanced trader. It's like understanding how to do that. And we want to push that, we can help the community learn how to do stuff like that. And I'm happy to be a part of like the learning process.
You are the learning process. And you can also find Roy's articles that he personally wrote about these different stocks on our website, roisinvestments.co.
Yes.
Yep.
And
yeah.
Oh, and there's tons of other really cool stuff on the website. It was just launched, just a few days ago. inevitably we're going to be adding to it and making it better as time goes on. But I think like if you guys hop on there, you're going to find that it's a very valuable like place to learn. You're able to like find my email there, which is rois.investments33@gmail.com, which is how you guys can reach me. I'm happy to talk trade with you guys. I'm more than welcome to like, even if you have like comments about the show, I'm happy to hear those as well. We're trying to make the show better for you guys, and we're also trying to help you guys learn along this way with us.
And if you have some knowledge that you want to, maybe speak about, or anything that regarding, being a guest or, whatnot for this podcast, you email ROIS Podcast at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. And if you like, especially like you guys are welcome to come on here as well. We're open to hearing new stuff, and if you guys have a stock to like talk to us about, you want to have your voice heard, hop on here with us. Just email me, and
even if you're a lunatic.
No, I'm kidding. All people are accepted here, so come through, and we'll have some fun. Me and Johnny have like a good time every single time we make a podcast, and it feels really good because it feels like we're doing something like awesome for like the community. And we're also, by doing this, like we don't always know what each other are going to say, and so like by doing this, like I feel like I learned something, and I hope Johnny feels like he's learning something.
I definitely learned something. I definitely learned something
because you have to sit here through this entire thing. No, I'm just kidding. But,
no, I'm the one learning.
No, I'm just kidding. I feel like we each add like a unique individual like perspective to this, and having your questions on here definitely drives like how I can kind of cater this to like the audience that I'm looking for. But yeah, well,
awesome.
This has been a good show. I think it's about time for our outro skit here though, which is everybody's favorite part of this show.
Absolutely.